Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. And today I'm here with the return of Philosophy Friday, where I take a look at the format and how we as players can use deck building as a way to shape our play experience. And today I want to talk about intent. We all know problematic cards exist and are unbanned in Commander. Cards that may create poor play experiences, form combos that prevent players from engaging, or reset the game entirely. But before we look at Magic, let's look at the real world. A carpenter uses a hammer, a simple tool, to build and create. While the hammer is always meant to strike, the tool's intent is not to harm. But a hammer can be used to harm. It can be used to strike someone and inflict injury. That's not its intended use, but rather the intent of the person wielding the hammer. A knife in the hands of a chef can create a beautiful work of culinary art, a feast for the eyes as much for the mouth. While the knife is always intended to be used to cut, its intent is not to harm someone. But a knife can be used to harm. We can injure ourselves with it accidentally, or others. That's not its intended use, but rather the intent of the person wielding the knife. So by now you're asking what this means to Magic and Commander. Mainly, no one wants a murder in a game of Magic. Unless it's the spell murder, I guess. A bloodbath in a game of EDH is sometimes called a pub stomping, where you join a public game with strangers and thoroughly thrash them or get thrashed. We're supposed to stop this with pre-game conversations, discussions about expectations, power levels, and gameplay experiences all should be had. But when we don't have these conversations, when we don't care about what kind of collaborative experiences we'd like to share, we end up turning tools into weapons. What do I mean by this? Let's take a boogeyman of the format for instance, Hull Breacher. When used on its own, Hull Breacher is little more than a hate bear, ensuring your opponents don't draw extra cards and setting you ahead if they attempt to. This isn't inherently harmful. In fact, it simply returns the game state to its intended rules of only drawing one card per turn. That's fine. You can play around a Hull Breacher on its own. You're still drawing a card a turn. But when our intent in using this tool changes, when we choose to use this tool as a weapon, we choose violence and injure the gameplay experience. Enter wheel effects. Here's where we choose to break the effect on Hull Breacher by destroying the symmetry to our wheel effects. This interaction strips all the cards from our opponents and makes us about 21 treasures in most instances. This may look and feel like you're now holding the whole table ransom. You're sitting on a pile of treasures while your opponents sit empty-handed. Excellent for you, but now you've killed the game for 3 other people. But notably, you haven't ended the game. You've just made it harder for others to win and harder for you to lose. Now, you're going to either have everyone scoop and move on, or slog through turn after turn, waiting for you to win with your mounds of treasures, always threatening to just cast another wheel effect and do it all again. Is that a positive gameplay experience? Or have you turned what, on its own, is a useful tool, the wheel or the Hull Breacher, into a weapon? Another example, Armageddon and mass land destruction. These are more taboo effects in our format, but remain perfectly legal. We've all been on the receiving end of an Armageddon before, but think back. How quickly did your opponent win the game after casting the spell? When used as a tool, a player can cast Armageddon and use it to win the game as part of a combo or to prevent opponents from interacting with a superior board state. Casting Armageddon with an active Bloodchief's Ascension on the board for a big life loss bomb, for instance, is a valid way to close out a game. Casting Armageddon with an Elish Norn and several tokens on board, ensuring no one can remove your superior combat advantage, is a perfectly fine way to ensure you can close out a game. That's using the spell with the intent to be a tool rather than a weapon. But how many times have you played a game where somebody has cast Armageddon immediately after another player has cast a board wipe? Or when somebody who is clearly behind uses an Armageddon to play Kingmaker, ensuring victory for another player? That's using the spell with the intent to create a poor play experience. That's using the spell as a weapon to hurt your fellow players. Let's also look at extra turn spells and their use and intent, and how this can be helpful or harmful. We can all agree that everyone came to play Commander. If you're sitting down in a pod, an experience that prevents you from playing is a poor one. Well, what if one person gets to play all the magic and you get to play none? Much like in our Hull Breacher example, that's what extra turns create. These might make locks or loops that don't necessarily win, but also don't let others play. Extra turn spells coupled with God Eternal Kefnet, for instance, can create a lock, but create a lock that wins eventually, looping extra turn spells. It's when we get into instances where a player takes multiple turns without winning or even significantly advancing their board state that we get a malicious intent and a poor play experience. If you get to play 3 times as much magic as anyone else, that may feel great for you, but you're taking 9 times the amount of gameplay away from your other players. Your intent isn't to use a tool, but to create a weapon. In each of these instances, note that using the card or effect like a weapon does not mean winning the game. In fact, it's the opposite. If you can use these effects to win a game, there is nothing inherently wrong with them. But when you use these effects to simply prevent others from interacting or playing the game that everyone has sat down and agreed to play, that's the point where a tool has become a weapon. Now, many cite instances where the Commander Rules Committee, our format's governing body, has banned cards that are used as weapons. Iona, for instance, can shut players out of the game on a single card. That is one card that has no other use than to be a weapon and remove the play experience from others, and it is justly on the banned list. Paradox Engine is another instance. While many use it as a tool to combo out and win a game, there are just as many that use it to create a long, uninteractive turn where one player monopolizes the playtime and creates disengagement and poor play experience. While not always a weapon, the chance of it hurting play experience is far greater than that of creating beneficial play experience for more than just a single player. But Chris, many may cry out, why doesn't the Rules Committee ban all cards that can be used as weapons to harm play experience? And here's where we get to intent. If the Commander banned list is significantly expanded to include all potentially harmful cards, then we take away the ability to use them as tools. While the Rules Committee can govern which cards are played, they cannot govern how people use them. That is up to us as the player, as the deck builder, as the play group. We are responsible for using the cards we can in a manner that benefits all players at a table rather than just yourself. That may seem counterintuitive. After all, the end state to every game is that there's a winner. But ensuring the route you take to winning respects everyone's time and experience is the intent we should be aiming for. Have the pre-game conversation. Set expectations. Ask if it's okay. And most importantly, use your head. Before casting that spell or creating that lock, think to yourself, am I using this to win, or am I drawing the game out? Am I using this to end the game, or am I using this to prevent my opponents from playing the game? Are you using these effects as tools, or are you using them as weapons? Weapons to inflict harm on your friends and fellow players you have chosen to play a game with. As always, folks, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on this. And, as always, good luck and have fun.